Most PS5 players only play the big names. These 25 open-world hidden gems are seriously underrated and deserve way more attention in 2026. Starting off strong, number 1 on this list is Tchia, and it immediately sets the tone for everything this video is about. This is an open-world adventure set on a tropical island, inspired by New Caledonia, a place most people have never heard of, let alone seen recreated in a video game. You play as a young girl with a rare gift called soul jumping, which lets you take control of animals and objects in the environment. Want to become a bird and fly across the ocean? Done. Want to possess a torch and roll it into a camp of enemies? Also done. The world itself is warm, colorful, and full of life, with local music playing throughout that actually fits the setting, rather than feeling generic. It launched on PS5 with full DualSense haptic support, and the tactile feel of climbing, swimming, and gliding gives the whole experience a physical quality that makes exploration deeply satisfying. Next up, at number 2, is Elex 2, a game that almost nobody outside of Europe seems to know about, despite being one of the most ambitious open-world RPGs ever made for PS5. Developed by Piranha Bytes, the game drops you into a massive post-apocalyptic world where science fiction and fantasy collide in the most unexpected ways. You can go from fighting a knight with a sword to pulling out a plasma rifle against a mutant creature in the span of a single encounter. The jetpack mechanic changes everything about how you traverse the world, letting you scale mountains and glide across valleys in ways that feel genuinely freeing. The RPG systems are deep, with multiple factions competing for your loyalty, and a morality system that actually shifts how the world responds to your choices. It is rough around the edges and unpolished in places, but for players who value depth and freedom over presentation, Elex 2 delivers in ways that few open-world games dare to attempt. Coming in at number 3, Biomutant is one of the most visually inventive open-world games released in recent years, and it deserved a far better reception than it got at launch. You play as a customizable, mutated creature in a world being slowly destroyed by pollution and conflict between warring tribes. Your character can be built in dozens of ways depending on how you allocate DNA mutations, meaning no 2 playthroughs feel exactly the same. The world is split into distinct biomes that range from lush forests to toxic wastelands to frozen tundras, each with its own visual identity and secrets to uncover. Combat combines melee, ranged, and mutation-based abilities in a way that gets genuinely creative once you find your preferred build. The updated version available on PS5 runs significantly better than the original release, making this the ideal version to experience a world that rewards curiosity and patience above all else. At number 4, Sable is a game that asks you to slow down, look around, and stop expecting the world to fight back. Set on a desert planet filled with ancient ruins and wandering tribes, you play as Sable, a young woman on a coming-of-age journey called a gliding. There are no enemies to defeat, no health bar to maintain, and no combat of any kind. Instead, the game gives you a hoverbike, a massive open world to explore, and a series of NPCs whose stories slowly reveal the history of a civilization that once reached the stars. The art style is striking, drawing from comic book illustration in a way that makes every screenshot feel like a panel from a graphic novel. For players burned out on combat-heavy open-world games, Sable offers something genuinely rare in this genre, a world designed entirely around the joy of exploration and discovery without any pressure attached. Number 5 goes to GreedFall 2: The Dying World, a narrative-driven open-world RPG that flies completely under the radar, despite offering one of the richest political stories in recent gaming memory. Set in a world inspired by early colonial Europe, the game places you at the intersection of powerful factions, all competing for land, resources, and influence. Your choices as the protagonist directly shape how alliances form and how the world around you evolves, giving every quest a weight that goes beyond simple fetch missions. The combat system blends real-time action with tactical pause mechanics that reward thoughtful positioning over button mashing. The environments range from dense wilderness to populated port cities, each feeling distinct and handcrafted rather than procedurally generated. If you enjoy story-driven RPGs where the writing matches the ambition of the world building, GreedFall 2 is one of the most underappreciated games available on PS5 right now. Sliding into number 6 is Days Gone Remastered, which arrived in 2025 and gave an entirely new generation of players the chance to experience a game that critics initially underestimated. Set in a post-apocalyptic Oregon overrun by massive hordes of zombie-like creatures called Freakers, the game follows Deacon St. John, a biker searching for his missing wife across a beautifully realized open world. What makes this game special is the horde mechanic, where hundreds of enemies move together as a single organism that can fill an entire valley and force you to think creatively about escape routes and distractions. The world itself rewards exploration with hidden camps, Nero research stations, and survivor enclaves that flesh out the backstory of how civilization collapsed. The remaster brings enhanced visuals and smoother performance to a game that already looked impressive, making this the definitive way to experience one of PlayStation's most criminally overlooked exclusives. At number 7, Immortals Fenyx Rising is the open-world game that launched in the shadow of Assassin's Creed Valhalla and was almost immediately forgotten, which is genuinely unfair because it is outstanding. Developed by Ubisoft, it takes Greek mythology and rebuilds it as a vibrant, colorful open world filled with puzzles, combat, and genuinely funny writing that pokes fun at its own genre. You play as Fenyx, a soldier trying to rescue the Greek gods from a curse, and the world you explore is split into regions themed around different deities, each with its own visual identity. Unlike most Ubisoft open-world games, the map here is not flooded with hundreds of meaningless icons. Instead, every objective is placed with intention, and the puzzle vaults scattered throughout the world offer some of the most creative environmental challenges in any open-world game released in the past 5 years. Coming in at number 8, Outward Definitive Edition is the most demanding game on this list in every sense of the word, and it is absolutely not for everyone. But for the players it clicks with, it becomes one of the most absorbing open-world survival RPGs available on PS5. You don't play a chosen hero with special powers. You play an ordinary person carrying a debt, and the world does not care whether you live or die. Sleeping, eating, drinking, and managing your body temperature are all survival mechanics that interact with the world in meaningful ways. If you die, the game keeps going, presenting you with consequences rather than a reload screen. The open world is huge and filled with environmental storytelling that reveals itself slowly over dozens of hours. It also supports full co-op play, which transforms the experience entirely and makes the brutal difficulty far more manageable when tackled alongside another player. Number 9 belongs to Mad Max, a game from 2015 that runs on PS5 and remains one of the most atmospheric open-world experiences ever built around vehicular combat. Set in the same universe as the film series, you play Max across a vast wasteland where gasoline is currency and survival depends on your car as much as your fists. The vehicle upgrade system is deep and satisfying, letting you transform a beat-up jalopy into an armored war machine capable of taking on entire convoys. The on-foot combat is brutal and straightforward, built around a system similar to the Batman Arkham series. The world itself is hauntingly empty in the best possible way, with desolate beauty in every direction and hidden camps, enemy strongholds, and buried secrets scattered across a map that rewards patient exploration. For fans of the franchise or anyone who appreciates open worlds built around a specific atmosphere rather than sheer content volume, Mad Max holds up remarkably well. Hitting number 10, Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning is a remaster of a cult classic that launched over a decade ago and never quite found the massive audience it deserved, despite featuring a fantasy world co-created by celebrated author R.A. Salvatore. The setting is called the Feylands, a lush and colorful realm where every visual environment looks like it was painted by hand rather than generated by an algorithm. The combat system is one of the most fluid in any open-world RPG, blending hack-and-slash mechanics with magic and stealth in combinations that feel genuinely satisfying to execute. The fate system at the core of the game lets you shift between multiple class archetypes without committing permanently, giving you freedom to experiment that most RPGs do not allow. The Re-Reckoning version includes both major DLC packs and graphical updates that bring a classic fantasy world back to life in a way worth experiencing on PS5. At number 11, Praey for the Gods is the kind of game that immediately reminds you of Shadow of the Colossus, but builds something distinct enough to stand on its own. Set on a frozen, dying island where massive godlike creatures roam, You play as a lone figure tasked with hunting down these colossal beings and ending the endless winter threatening everything. The game captures the feeling of scale in an exceptional way, climbing a moving boss whose body is its own vertical puzzle while wind howls and snow blurs your vision is one of the most genuinely tense gaming experiences PS5 has to offer. Between boss encounters, you explore the open world, gathering resources, crafting gear, and uncovering the island's lore through environmental clues and scattered documents. The survival mechanics add weight to exploration, ensuring you cannot simply sprint from one encounter to the next without planning and preparation. Number 12 goes to The Forgotten City, which began as a Skyrim mod and was rebuilt from the ground up into one of the most original narrative experiences in gaming. Set in an underground Roman city frozen in time by a divine curse, you must investigate a murder without triggering a punishment that kills every inhabitant instantly if a single person commits a sin. The open world is actually a time loop, meaning every death and failure lets you carry knowledge forward into a new cycle and approach the mystery from a different angle. The writing is consistently smart and occasionally brilliant, with NPCs that feel like actual characters with motivations rather than quest dispensers. There is no combat to speak of, but the tension of navigating a fragile social ecosystem under impossible rules creates its own form of pressure that keeps you engaged from the first moment to the final revelation. Stepping into number 13, Tunic is a game that wears the disguise of a simple action-adventure, but conceals layers of complexity that reveal themselves slowly and deliberately over dozens of hours. You play as a small fox exploring a mysterious open world filled with ruins, monsters, and cryptic architecture that suggests an ancient civilization long gone. The game deliberately withholds its mechanics, presenting information through an in-world instruction manual written in a fictional language that you slowly decode as you explore. The combat is demanding and punishes overconfidence in ways that echo Dark Souls, but the world design rewards curiosity in ways that feel entirely its own. Hidden pathways, secret rooms, and puzzles embedded in the environment itself give Tunic a density that makes every corner of the map worth examining. It is one of the most thoughtfully constructed open-world experiences available on PS5, and one of the least talked about. At number 14, Pacific Drive is one of the most genuinely original open-world games released in years, and sits in a category that is difficult to define. You are a driver trapped in a supernatural exclusion zone somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, surviving through a series of increasingly dangerous runs into the anomaly-filled wilderness using a station wagon as your home base and primary survival tool. The car is not just a vehicle, but a character in itself, developing quirks and mechanical personality the longer you keep it alive. Every run into the zone requires preparation, resource gathering, and route planning, then adaptation when things inevitably go wrong. The world is eerie and beautiful, filled with strange phenomena and environmental storytelling that builds a detailed picture of what happened to the people who live there. Pacific Drive blends survival, driving, and horror into something that feels entirely fresh within the open-world genre. Coming in at number 15, Wayfinder is a multiplayer action RPG that struggled at launch with technical issues, but has since been rebuilt, re-released, and transformed into one of the most feature-complete and visually impressive games available on PS5 at no cost. Set in a shattered world where rifts in reality have created dangerous zones called Gloom, you play as one of several hero-class characters called Wayfinders, trying to restore stability to a dying realm. The open world is filled with handcrafted environments that blend dark fantasy aesthetics with lush, expressive art direction that makes exploration feel rewarding purely from a visual standpoint. The combat is fast and skill-expressive, with builds that allow for genuine creativity across different characters and playstyles. As a free-to-play experience with no meaningful pay-to-win mechanics, Wayfinder represents exceptional value for PS5 owners looking for a cooperative open-world game with genuine depth.
At number 16, Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn is a Souls-like action RPG set in a world where the gates of the afterlife have broken open and an army of gods has invaded the living realm. You play as Nor, a soldier accompanied by a small fox-like spirit named Enki, whose magical abilities combine with gunpowder combat to create a hybrid fighting system unlike anything else in the genre. The gunplay adds a range dimension to Souls-like combat that keeps encounters feeling dynamic rather than repetitive, and the axe-based melee system rewards aggressive play with momentum mechanics that push you toward taking risks. The open world is split into interconnected zones that blend desert landscapes with ruins of an ancient civilization, each filled with lore fragments and optional encounters. For players who enjoy the rhythm of Souls-like games but want something more accessible and faster-paced, Flintlock delivers a satisfying loop with a distinctive visual identity.
Number 17 brings Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden onto the list, a game developed by Don't Nod that tackles grief and supernatural horror through an open-world RPG structure built around one of the most emotionally grounded stories in recent gaming. You play as two ghost hunters, when living and when dead, navigating a colonial American settlement haunted by spirits that your character couple is responsible for sending to the afterlife. The dual protagonist mechanic switches between physical combat and ghostly abilities in ways that feel mechanically distinct and narratively meaningful. The open world is dense with haunting cases that present genuine moral dilemmas, each one asking you to decide the fate of a spirit based on incomplete and conflicting testimony from the living. The writing across these cases is consistently strong, with enough ambiguity to make every decision feel significant rather than obvious. Banishers is one of the most mature and overlooked RPGs released on PS5. At number 18, Hogwarts Legacy deserves mention here, because despite its massive commercial success, the depth of its open world is consistently underappreciated, even by players who finished the main story. The game places you in a version of the wizarding world set in the 1800s, long before the events of the books, which gives the developers freedom to build an original story without the constraints of established canon. The open world surrounding Hogwarts is enormous, filled with hidden treasure vaults, ancient magic trials, and side quests that explore the social and moral complexity of a magical society in ways the source material rarely attempted. The broom flying system allows genuine freedom of exploration across a landscape that includes mountains, coastlines, forests, and ruins. For players who only engaged with the main quest, returning to explore the full open world reveals a game significantly larger and more detailed than most people realize. Number 19 is Atlas Fallen, a fast-paced action RPG that received a lukewarm reception at launch, but has since been updated significantly, and now represents one of the most pure and enjoyable action-focused open-world games on PS5. Set in a desert world, where sand is the source of all power, you wield a gauntlet capable of shaping the environment, building weapons from nothing, and surfing across dunes at remarkable speed. The momentum-based traversal system is genuinely exhilarating, making simply moving through the world an activity worth doing for its own sake. Combat chains abilities together in ways that reward creativity and encourage experimentation across a broad upgrade tree. The world itself is sparse compared to many open-world games, but that sparseness is intentional, keeping the focus on combat encounters and the satisfaction of movement rather than overwhelming you with activities designed to fill time. Sliding into number 20, Forspoken is a deeply divisive game that critics hammered for its writing, but largely failed to adequately celebrate for its traversal and magic combat systems, which remain among the best ever designed for an open-world action game on PS5. You play as Praey, a young woman from New York transported to a fantasy world called Athia, who gradually masters an enormous library of magical abilities. The parkour movement system built around those abilities lets you sprint up cliffs, launch across canyons, and glide between obstacles in ways that make traversal alone compelling enough to sustain hours of play. The open world rewards exploration with genuinely useful upgrade materials and story fragments that flesh out Athia's history. The magic combat system offers enough depth and variety to keep encounters fresh across the full runtime. As a technical showcase for what PS5 hardware can do with open-world movement, Forspoken remains largely unmatched.
At number 21, Scars Above is a third-person shooter with Souls-like elements set on an alien world full of hostile ecosystems and ancient technology. You play as a scientist from Earth who crash lands on a mysterious megastructure and must use environmental observation and elemental weaponry to overcome creatures and machines that resist conventional approaches. The game rewards paying attention to the world itself, as environmental details reveal enemy weaknesses and hidden pathways that make approaching every encounter feel like a puzzle, rather than a test of reflex alone. The open areas are compact by open-world standards, but filled with secrets and optional discoveries that flesh out the alien history you are investigating. For players who enjoy science fiction settings and strategic combat that punishes button mashing in favor of methodical engagement, Scars Above offers a tight and polished experience that never overstays its welcome. Number 22 goes to Ravenlok, an action RPG that draws directly from Alice in Wonderland, but builds a distinct fantasy world full of creatures, puzzles, and environmental storytelling that rewards exploration. You play as a young girl who discovers a mirror on her family's farmland and is pulled through it into a kingdom under the control of a tyrannical queen. The world is divided into biomes that each carry their own visual personality, from overgrown gardens to crystal caverns to clockwork fortresses. Combat is fast and accessible, designed around dodging and timing rather than complex ability management, making it approachable without feeling shallow. The narrative carries genuine emotional weight towards its conclusion and takes the source material in directions that feel surprising rather than derivative. Ravenlok is a short game by open-world standards, but uses its runtime efficiently, delivering a complete and satisfying experience without unnecessary padding.
At number 23, Unknown 9 Awakening is an action-adventure game that introduces one of the most creative supernatural mechanics in any open-world game available on PS5. You play as Haruna, a woman who can step into a dimension called the Fold that exists just outside of physical reality, using it to possess enemies, scout environments, and create tactical opportunities in combat scenarios. The world spans multiple real-world locations, given a fantastical twist through ancient secret society mythology and hidden history that gradually reveals a conspiracy stretching across centuries. The narrative draws from global folklore and non-Western mysticism in ways that feel refreshing compared to the European fantasy settings that dominate the genre. The combat rewards patience and creativity over aggression, making the fold mechanic central to success rather than an optional gimmick layered on top of standard action gameplay.
Hitting number 24, Replaced is a cyberpunk open-world action game set in an alternative 1980s America where artificial intelligence exists inside a human body for the first time. The visual direction is exceptional, blending pixel art with cinematic lighting and environmental detail in a way that makes the world feel simultaneously retro and visually advanced. The open world is built vertically as much as horizontally, with multiple layers of a sprawling city to explore, across rooftops, street level, and underground. Combat mixes hand-to-hand brawling with environmental interactions that let you use the city itself as a weapon. The narrative explores themes of identity, consciousness, and freedom in ways that go considerably deeper than the cyberpunk aesthetic typically demands. For players who enjoy science fiction storytelling with genuine philosophical ambition, wrapped inside a beautifully realized open world, Replaced is essential.
Closing out the list at number 25, GreedFall 2, The Dying World, returns for a full mention as one of the most ambitious narrative RPGs currently available on PS5, earning its spot twice on this list for the sheer scope of what it attempts. The colonial fantasy setting gives the game a political texture that few open-world RPGs are willing to engage with seriously, and the writing does not shy away from the moral complexity of its premise. Side quests carry the same weight as main story missions because every decision you make carries real consequences for the factions and communities you encounter. The combat system received significant improvements over the first game, making tactical use of abilities and positioning feel genuinely meaningful rather than decorative. The world is beautiful and varied, with each region feeling culturally distinct and carefully considered rather than aesthetically uniform. This is a game that trusts you to think, and that alone makes it worth your time.